You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account. From Apple to VIX and everything in between, if it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report. If you're listening to this show, chances are you're pretty serious about options trading. So let me put something on your radar. Public. It's the most cost-effective way to trade options. That's because Public is the only platform that gives you rebates on your options trades. They also have some of the industry's lowest index options fees. Whether you're placing single leg or complex multi-leg trades, every dollar counts. Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in podcast description. And now, get ready to scan the tape for the most explosive options activity on the street. It's time for the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody, that music means it is time once again for your Hot Options Report for Wednesday, September 24th. My name, of course, Mark Longo, coming at you from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as on the network upon which so many of you folks are binging these days. Remember, make sure you're subscribed to the full network wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want to get awesome pro Q&As, options oddities, giveaways, live streams, all sorts of fun exclusives, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. Let's kick things off in the land of VIX options, shall we? A VIX cash closing a wee bit north of the 16 handle yet again out there today, listeners. And was it a hot day in VIX land? The answer was, unfortunately, no. Another sleeper out there, listeners. VIX struggling to put up, and really not even managing to put up 500,000 contracts, 443,000 contracts on the tape in VIX against an ADV of 862. So another light one. The hot option out there in VIX land today. It's been a while since we've seen VIX this light. Only 20,000 contracts. That's all that cost you to break into the top 10 in VIX land today, listeners. That gets you to the October 23 calls. Average price for those about exactly $1. So Oct 23's $1. Would you be a buyer, or are you screaming sold to you, listeners, as we keep on rolling out to the land of SPY? SPY looking a little bit more active, dare I say it, a little bit more respectable out there today. 8.4 million contracts on the tape in SPY land. That's against an ADV of about 7.8 million, so exceeding expectations out there in SPY, listeners. And what was the hot option on a pretty hot day in SPY? Over 500,000, 522,000 of the 660 puts. SPY going out a wee bit north of that at 661.10. So unfortunately, no joy for those if you bought them for the average price of around 42 cents and rode them all the way into the close. But if you sold them, you had to grit your teeth a little bit at the end of the day. Looking okay out there, listeners, as we keep on rolling to the SPX. Was the SPX looking hot, looking spicy out there, listeners? The answer is looking pretty decent. Nearly 4 million contracts on the tape, about 3.96 million, and the average is about 4.1 million. So pretty much within spitting distance of its ADV out there in VIX land, or I should say in SPX land today, listeners. And the hot option out there in a decently active day in the SPX, about 161,000. Once again to the downside of the 6630 puts. Interesting. We are 2 for 2 puts to the downside here in both the SPX and SPY. We don't see that too often in the major indexes out there, listeners. Average price for those 6630 puts, nearly $4, about $392 out there. You know the deal. If you bought those and hold them, if you bought those and you held them into the close, unfortunately, not looking great for you out there. As we keep on rolling out to the land of small caps, a decently active day in small caps, right around their ADV. The ADV is about 1.6 million, putting up about 1.55 million contracts out there in small caps. Small caps closing 241.60, so giving up nearly 1% out there today. And the hot option out there, 80,000 of the 231 puts, again expiring in October, so eschewing the 0 DTE for today, at least in the small caps out there, listeners. As we keep on rolling to the Qs, was it a hot day out there in the Nasdaq, listeners? The answer was yes. Over 4.5 million, about 4.56 million contracts changing hands out there in the Nasdaq, listeners. That's against an ADV of about 4.1. So coming in a little hot, a little heavy out there today. And the hot option on a decently active day, 271,000 of the 595 puts. Average price for those around 60 cents. And we saw the Qs closing today a little bit north of 596, 596.10. So looks like a bit of a bridge too far on those 595 puts if you bought them. If you sold them, you were sweating a bit towards the end, but looks like worked out for you. As we keep on rolling out to the land of single names, was it a hot day out there in single names? The answer was it was decent. 565 is what it cost you to break into the top 10. It gets you to our old pal Palantir, closing right around 179.5, selling off nearly $3 or about 1.5% today. Putting up 41,000 of the 185 calls. Interesting strike. Again, average price of about $1.67. So 2 more days, listeners. Thursday and Friday. Can Palantir get back to 185? Then, of course, 186.67 if you tack on that little bit of premium out there. Be interesting to see. I mean, Palantir can move. It can certainly get there. Seems like a bit of a climb right now, but we'll keep an eye on that throughout the rest of the week as we keep on rolling to number 9. It's good old AMD. What's happening out there in chipland today? AMD closing pretty much unched. 160.88 is pretty much where AMD went out today, listeners. So interesting. Don't see AMD or any chip names really closing unched that often. So kind of interesting. 591,000 contracts on the tape for the number 9 spot and the hot option out there. About 85,000 of the 165s. Average price for these also about $1.65. So pretty close to what they were trading the 185s for in Palantir there. So once again, can we get there? 166.65 in 2 more sessions, listeners. We'll keep an eye on AMD as we keep on rolling to number 8. It's Baba. Baba popping hard yet again. 176.44 is where it went out, up nearly $13.50, about 8.25%. Proving the old adage that if you announce you are spending a metric ton of money on AI, your stock will rally. Usually, when you are spending money, listeners, that doesn't happen for the stock. But when you say you're spending that money on the magical letters of AI, guess what? Your stock will magically rally. We saw that with NVIDIA. Now we're seeing that with Baba. Nearly 700,000 contracts on the tape for good old Alibaba. The hot option out there, 51,000 of the 180s. Again, all these contracts expiring on Friday. 176.44 is where we went out today, listeners. The average price for those 180s, 273. So not giving those away. It looks like we did get there today earlier in the session. Got up to about 180.16. So maybe that makes the 180s for nearly 275 a bit more palatable for you, or maybe you're still screaming sold to you. Either way, Baba number 8. Number 7, Micron. We talked about them yesterday heading into their earnings. There were some wild strikes going up in Micron on our hot options report yesterday, listeners. In fact, as you'll recall, listeners, it was the 190s lighting it up. My goodness, 190. we talked about that yesterday. They went up nearly 30,000 times yesterday for about $2. So again, they were not giving these away, $2. That is a heck of a premium to be pricing in to the 190 calls with just a few more sessions left to go. Of course, earnings, a big crapshoot, a wild ride out there. Did we threaten the 190 strike today in Micron, listeners? The answer was no. The high of the day was about 166. So a nice little run, but didn't quite threaten the 190. You said yesterday on the show, if you have some micro in your back pocket, I think you'd be happy maybe letting some go at 192, taking that $2 off the table, and that certainly looks like the good do right now, as the kids say. 166 even was the high today, the low 158.30. Closing today 161.71. So a wild ride post earnings for Micron, putting up 711,000 contracts. The hot option out there, 38,000 of the 170s, going up for about 81 cents. So still a pretty wild strike, but compared to the 190s, far more reasonable. As we keep on rolling to number 6, it's the Amazonians, closing today right around 220 and a quarter, putting up 856,000 contracts, and the hot option out there about 53,000 of the 225s. Average price for these about $1.13. So needs to run a little bit in the next few sessions for these 225s to pay off, or maybe you sold them, in which case you want it to hang out here or below for the rest of the week as we keep on rolling. Out to number 5, keeping it in A tech names. It's Apple, 252.31 up, I should say, putting up 876,000 contracts on the tape today. Apple giving back some of its iPhone luster out there, this iPhone rally they've been on for a little while now. 79,000 contracts on the tape for the fruit company. The hot option out there, the 255 calls, trading for about $1.10. So can we get to 256.10 by the end of the week? Certainly doable out there in Apple land. We'll keep an eye on it as we keep on rolling to number 4. It's Intel. Intel popping hard today, closing right around 31 and a quarter, up nearly $2 or about 6.5%. So another strong upside day in Intel, putting up 1.1 million contracts today, and the hot option out there about 44,000 of the November 35s. This is the only Nov on our list this week, listeners, which is kind of wild. No 35s. I'll give you a couple of seconds. What do you think the Nov 35s we're trading for today, listeners? If you said about $1.60, then you are an option savant. You can do pricing models in your head. Congratulations. Nov 35s, 44,000 of them about today for about $1.60 out there today. That was your hot option out there in good old Intel. As we keep on rolling to number 3, it's our old pal Open, gaining back some of its lost luster, closing right around 8 and a quarter, putting up about $1.15 or about 16% today. So nice little pop out there. They kissed a 6 handle yesterday. They got down there for a little bit. So wild run this week for Open as expected. 1.5 million contracts on the tape. The hot option out there, 121,000 of the 8 half calls. Average price for these, 33 cents. As we keep on rolling to number 2, yes, number 2, it's NVIDIA, putting up exactly 2 million contracts. Don't see that too often. NVIDIA closing right around 177, a few ticks below it, listeners. Giving up nearly $1.50, so not even 1% out there today, listeners, in NVIDIA. And it was the 180s lighting up the tape nearly 200,000 times today, 195,000 times for about $1.18. So 180, 118 by the end of the week, listeners, certainly doable for NVIDIA. Or perhaps you're saying sold to you as we keep on rolling to number 1. It's Tesla, closing today right around 442 3/4, putting up about 2.5 million contracts. And the hot option out there, 150,000 of the 440 calls, trading for an average price of about $7.20. So that is certainly rich, listeners. Also going out about $2.79 in the money. So factor that into some of your analysis. Still a lot of juice on their listeners. Got as high as about 444 and a quarter today, listeners. So maybe that makes that roughly $7.20 price a little bit more palatable for you on the 440s. Either way, Tesla needs to keep moving north by the end of the week to make these 440s pay off. Otherwise, if you're selling them, you'll have a good end to the week. And that's going to do it for your Hot Options Report today, listeners. We're back again with our usual array of Thursday content tomorrow, kicking things off with the option block and our good buddy, the Flow Master. If you like this kind of content, talking about a lot of options flow and data, he's a good guy to listen to, as well as, of course, This Week in Futures Options, where we talk about all the action outside of your Apples and Teslas and NVIDIAs. We're going to talk maybe some energy, some metals, some rates, some FX. You never know, ags, crypto. You never know what's going to make it onto that show. You have to tune in every week before we come back here to wrap up our day after the closing bell with another episode of the Hot Options Report. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in podcast description.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.